My name is Kayla,
My name's Wes.
and this is our abortion story. We're married October of '99, and it was our dream to have a child together. Wes wanted a boy really bad, so in March of the next year, 2000, after trying just for a short while, we got pregnant pretty fast. When we went for that ultrasound, found it was a boy, what we wanted. So we had maybe 5 minutes of happiness.
Yeah, he found out it was a boy.
And then the doctor kept measuring and measuring and turned around, want to know if there's dwarfism in our family. But he said the femur bone was measuring short, and he wanted us to come back in a couple weeks to measure it again. And if it was still measuring short, he'd send us to a specialist. So we went back when I was 22 weeks. They did another ultrasound. It was still measuring short, and then he sent us to Dr. Thompson in Joplin, Missouri. That's when they did the ultrasound. I guess ultrasound tech actually just came in before the doctor and was doing all these different measurements. And when I noticed, I don't know if you did, remember, the heart rate, when they try to measure it and then they'll click on it to get the recording of it, to monitor it. She never could get it. And I noticed that. She kept trying and trying, and I just had a weird feeling, So after a while, she didn't say a word to us. She just shut the machine off, said, "Doctor, be in a little bit." And then my heart just sunk. And the doctor finally came in. He turned the machine back on and started doing more. And he took a picture of the baby's head. The ventricles in his head were enlarged. He said, which is a sure sign of Down syndrome. The baby's intestines were all bunched up, which was a sign of cystic fibrosis. That's when we went back to our regular doctor. And Dr. Farah in Grove, is where we lived. He told us, these babies with Down syndrome don't have quality of life. You can either keep it and hope he lives. If he lives, you can adopt him out if you don't want him, or you can terminate, which is probably best for your baby. At the place we were at in our lives at that time, we were rebellious against God in our lives, both had.
Yeah, I wasn't a Christian at all. I was actually Wiccan. I practiced witchcraft, if you could believe that, but yeah, I did. And was very rebellious because I thought I knew what the Christian religion was about. And without getting off subject, I was totally lied to as far as what the Christian religion was about.
This is the ultrasound pictures that was taken that day, on September 12th, when the doctor came in. It's the ones we were given. And so we went home after that and weighed our options, and at the place we were in our life, I just felt hopeless. And the lie from the medical field of this is best for your baby, it's like pretty much Satan lied to us, because you can't afford it. How would you take care of him? You can't handle this emotionally. This is too much. Just all those things, and the disappointment I felt for wanting to, this is where I get emotional. Just wanting to give him a son. After the diagnosis, we made that terrible decision to go ahead and terminate with the doctor's advice. That's the best thing. And he made all the phone calls to the clinic in Wichita, which was the closest one to us that would do late term. And we set the appointment. 2 weeks after the diagnosis is when we went, because the cutoff date was 24 weeks, and then they wouldn't do it anymore. So we made the trip to Wichita and went into the clinic and met with the doctor, and he discussed with us it was the best thing for our baby. And the first day is when they actually euthanized the baby. So they took us in this room and gave me the Versed to pretty much, well, I wouldn't remember a lot of it. But, and then they had an ultrasound machine so they could see the baby in the womb, and that's when that first day is when they go to inject the baby and euthanize the baby that day.
I remember Teller coming in and everything. He had his suit on and everything, and then he had also up underneath his suit he had a bulletproof vest on and everything, and he took that off and everything. She said she didn't remember that, but anyways, yeah, the ultrasound was set up, and I was at the vantage point on the ultrasound that I saw him inject the needle into her abdomen or whatnot, and then I watched him as he stabbed my son in the heart to kill him. And I didn't think I was like, that's probably something I shouldn't have seen, but I did. I watched him.
It's a 3-day process, so they send us back to the motel that evening, and so carrying your dead child for 3 days, and depression just set in. Like, I mean, the realization of what we had done hit me when we were in there. He said I kept waking up and saying, "Have they done it yet?" And he'd say yes, and I'd start crying and fall back asleep. The third day they were there, and then they have you come back to the clinic, and I remember the doctor broke my water, and they had us sitting in a waiting room type thing, and when I felt ready, I was supposed to tell them. They took me to like a bed, had curtains in between. There's a lot of other women there, so they took me to the room I was supposed to deliver in, and there was issues with the placenta being in the way of my cervix and the baby. And the doctor had went out and talked to him about having maybe to take the baby out in pieces, and if that was okay, and they might have to send me to the hospital for a blood transfusion if that happened. I ended up delivering him in the bed. They took me back to the labor bed. I was supposed to deliver in that room, but they'd take me back. And when they laid me down, I felt, giving birth before to 9-pound babies, I felt this little miniature head at the opening, and told the nurse, and I guess, after that she put more Versed in my IV, and I don't remember anything. Delivered him in the bed, the nurse delivered him. I woke up and I guess several times and saw him, and I would say, "I haven't had him yet." And he'd say, "Yes, you have." And I'd just start crying and go back to sleep, which I don't remember. After I woke up fully, they gave us the option of holding our baby before we left, and they would take pictures and send them to you. So we did that, and then we also asked them to take his footprints and his handprints for us, so we'd have them for our own records. And then the pictures we took of him, they actually show his little body and where they injected him to kill him. That little black spot right there is where they stuck the needle. And you can see how tiny he was with his little hand on Wes's finger. But, And then we also have his ashes that they sent us for our own. They gave you that option. But after that, you just get sent home. So, but that after I had him, we went back to the hotel, of course, to get our things and to go home. And my milk came in. Your body doesn't know the difference between a live birth and a stillbirth. And my milk came in, and God gives you this maternal thing of wanting to feed something, you know, like, and my arm just felt so empty. Right? Even though I wasn't acknowledging God as my Father at that time, there's something in me that knew, you know, no matter what my mind told me that I did the right thing, my body knew. And my milk came in, and my heart and my arms just, there's nothing that could fill that because he wasn't there, you know. It's just an empty feeling that won't go away. And they tell you that, you know, you did the right thing for your baby, but you know you didn't. And the depression and the hopelessness and the grief, and you can't share it with anybody because what would they think? You killed your own baby. You don't deserve to grieve because you're the one that chose to end his life. So you think you're not allowed to grieve, and the shame is just overwhelming. Like, it took me, 3 years later, I was suicidal and didn't know why, you know, still not acknowledging, you know, what we had done, the reality of what we had done. It wasn't until 2005, maybe 5 years later, that the Lord led us back to this area where our family lived, my family lived. He had never been here before. And then I was still carrying that guilt around. Every anniversary, you know, I had him on September 28th, so every time that came around, I went through grief all over again.
We couldn't even celebrate your birthday because it was so close to that time. It was like, happy birthday, Kayla. And then you knew it wasn't happy.
And it affected my relationship with my other children too, because I was so depressed and despondent, really, just overwhelming grief. But in 2005, I sought out a Bible study online for women that had abortions, and it's called, I think, healinghearts.org, and it was a very detailed Bible study, but it brought me to the knowledge of the scriptures, that it is a child in your womb. It's not just a fetus. And the reason that the guilt I was feeling was the burden of sin of murdering my child. And once those scriptures led me to that knowledge, and the repentance came, and the forgiveness, it just made so much sense. Like, that's what it is. I'm guilty of murdering my child. That realization was such a relief to me. It's like, that's what it is. That's what's been this dark, dark shadow over our lives since we did that. And I went through that course and got forgiven, and I shared it with him, and we cried together, and you know, because we hadn't really talked about it that much. You know, it was just something we didn't talk about.
Yeah, at the beginning of this interview or whatnot, I said that I already knew what all the Christian religion was about, but it's not just a religion. Christianity is a relationship, and you follow Christ and Christ's likeness. You want to be like him, and you have to be in him to follow him truly in your heart. So it's not just a religion of go to church, say a prayer, be baptized, and now you're in the fold. It's It has to do with repentance, and that's what she came to, or we came to, together, as godly sorrow leadeth to repentance, and we repented of our sins. And most people, if you go through the Ten Commandments and everything, you can get to the one about murder. Well, have you ever killed anyone? I can't say no, I haven't, because in thought, to hate your brother, you are a murderer. But I've done it in letter and in deed, or in spirit and in the letter of the law. I've actually condoned the killing of another. So that repentance and that asking forgiveness and Christ is a mighty God, and He's able to forgive. But you have to come to Him with a contrite heart, a broken spirit, and no pride and no self-righteousness whatsoever. You can't have that. So, and it's a relationship. It's not just a religion. So I wanted to clarify that at first.